by most of them to be an imbecile. But when the cameras are on, man, oh man, they cannot get enough of...
Forget debates, policy arguments, or partisan divides. This is pure comedic carnage. Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel just tag-teamed Donald and Melania Trump in a late-night roasting session so brutal, it makes WWE look like a playground scuffle. No body slams, no suplexes, just razor-sharp wit and punchlines that hit harder than a subpoena.
This whole thing has brought back my 8-year-old self. It's been a gift from God. It's like literally like brought me back to 8 years old where I used to sit in my room. Trump is toast.
MAGA world is in full meltdown mode. And Trump's ego, let's just say it's more fragile than a house of cards in a hurricane. So, what did they say that has the internet in stitches and Trump furiously typing in all caps? Buckle up. This is a must-see takedown.
We are going to conquer the vast frontiers of science, and we are going to lead humanity into space and plant the American flag on the planet Mars and even far beyond. This is a time for big dreams and bold action. I will do away with red traffic lights, only green from now on. Keep it moving. America's momentum is back. Our spirit is back, and measles are back. We love our measles, don't we? Little spots. Pink, pink, pink. So cool. So itchy. I've had them on my balls. Big. I also signed an executive order to ban women from having their periods. It's demeaning for women, and it's very bad for our country. Melania says it's that time of the month, all month. She's fantastic. So much menstruation. Melania.
Donald Trump has been roasted before, but this? This was an all-out comedic execution. Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel just unleashed a takedown so precise, so devastating, that even Trump's most loyal followers must have felt a second-hand sting. Late-night comedy has gone after him for years, but this wasn't just another round of jokes. This was a full-scale reckoning, the kind of verbal beatdown that makes history. And the best part? Trump, the self-proclaimed king of insults, could do nothing but sit back and watch himself get verbally filleted in front of millions.
Donald Trump has pushed us to the point where we can't even agree on the weather. What a stupid time to be alive. But has anyone thought about unplugging America and plugging it back in again? Because
Jim Carrey, a human cartoon capable of turning even the most mundane moment into surreal comedy gold, didn't hold back. With his signature wild energy and dead-on impersonations, he transformed Trump into the punchline of a satire so brutal, it practically wrote itself. Then there was Jimmy Kimmel, the late-night assassin, whose ability to carve through Trump's fragile ego with sarcastic precision is unmatched. Together, they didn't just roast Trump, they slow-cooked him over an open flame, basting every joke in layers of mockery that had audiences roaring. But it wasn't just Trump who got dragged through the comedic shredder. Melania Trump, the first lady who often looked like she'd rather be anywhere else, found herself in the crosshairs too. From her robotic public appearances to her infamous Be Best campaign, launched while married to the most unapologetic cyberbully of our time, Kimmel had a field day pointing out the absurdity of it all. Carrey, meanwhile, painted a picture of a woman who had seemingly mastered the art of disappearing whenever things got messy, only re-emerging when it was time to cash in on the spectacle. And of course, no Trump roast would be complete without the inevitable meltdown. Because if there's one thing more predictable than Trump's obsession with gold-plated everything, it's his inability to take a joke. The moment the segment aired, you could practically hear the caps lock key breaking on his phone as he rage-typed his next Truth Social rant. Lawsuit threats? Probably. Claims of media bias? Definitely. But here's the real irony. Trump spent years hurling insults at his enemies like a petulant toddler on a sugar high. And now, when comedians simply hold up a mirror, he suddenly can't take the heat. So, what exactly did Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel say that sent MAGA world into a full-blown meltdown? What were the punchlines that had everyone from late-night audiences to Twitter commentators in stitches? And, most importantly, why was this roast long overdue? Let's break it down.
We are parentless, You know? And we are babysat by the television. We're taught how to think by the television. That's the dangerous thing about what's going on right now. There are generations growing up right now who are learning to lie. That lying is okay. That this
kids say fake news.
That you're supposed to hate half the country. You know? And if anything, we've got to get back to a place where we realize that a vote is not who you are. You know, and because you voted Republican, you're not stupid, you're not different, you're not worthless. You know, I could break bread with anybody who voted for Trump. We could find some common ground to love each other.
If Donald Trump thought he was going to escape unscathed from Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel's comedic wrath, he was in for a rude awakening. Because this wasn't just a roast, it was a public execution by punchline. The sheer precision of the jokes, the way they cut through Trump's bluster, and exposed the absurdity of his entire persona, made this one of the most brutal takedowns in late-night history. And the best part? Every single joke was rooted in truth. Carrey and Kimmel didn't need to exaggerate. They just had to shine a light on the chaos and let the ridiculousness speak for itself. Let's start with Jim Carrey's performance, because when it comes to turning politicians into walking parodies, there's no one better. He kicked things off with a jaw-droppingly accurate impression of Trump, complete with the exaggerated pout, frantic hand gestures, and that infamous incoherent rambling. "This presidency was a gift from God," Carrey mimicked in Trump's signature word vomit style. "Because it brought me back to being an 8-year-old boy. I sit in my room, I throw tantrums, I scream about fake news, and sometimes I even color outside the lines," the audience erupted. Because, let's be honest, has there ever been a more fitting description of Trump's leadership? A man who governs like an unsupervised toddler on a sugar high? Then there was Kimmel's sarcasm, as razor-sharp as ever. He wasted no time taking shots at Trump's notorious diet, saying, "The White House actually put out a memo today warning federal agencies to prepare for mass layoffs. But don't worry, none of this will affect the butler who brings Trump his Diet Cokes 10 times a day." The crowd lost it, because if there's one thing more well documented than Trump's love of Twitter rants, it's his obsession with Diet Coke, his fuel of choice for rage posting into the early hours. But Kimmel wasn't done. He zeroed in on Trump's notorious flip-flopping, mocking his inability to hold a consistent position on anything. The government just sent an email to millions of employees instructing them to list 5 things they accomplished last week, Kimmel said, pausing for effect. Trump said they would be fired if they didn't. Then he said they wouldn't be fired. Then he said they'd be semi-fired. Now he says they'll be wood-fired with caramelized onions. The beauty of the joke? It perfectly encapsulated Trump's chaotic, contradiction-filled decision-making, where every answer is subject to change depending on what Fox News said 5 minutes ago. And then came the Melania jokes. Because let's be real, no Trump roast is complete without addressing the world's most reluctant First Lady. Kimmel went straight for the jugular, calling out her eerie, hostage-like demeanor at public events. Melania reappeared at Trump's big-dollar fundraiser this weekend, looking absolutely miserable, he said. It was like she was being held hostage, only with a designer dress and better lighting. The audience erupted. Because really, has there ever been a First Lady who looked less enthusiastic about her role? From the viral clips of her dodging Trump's hand-holding attempts to her vacant expressions during speeches, Melania has perfected the art of appearing completely detached from her husband's circus. But Carrey took it even further, delivering what might have been the biggest gut punch of the night. Melania's book isn't just a book, he said with a smirk. It's also a fragrance. It smells like Slovenian prenup ink and a long sigh of regret. If Melania had $1 for every time someone speculated that she regrets marrying Trump, she wouldn't need a book deal. She'd be buying an island somewhere far, far away from Mar-a-Lago. But the roasting didn't stop there. Kimmel, ever the master of timing, twisted the knife further by mocking Trump's obsession with his own appearance. Trump was in South Carolina last night, complaining about unflattering photos of himself, Kimmel said, shaking his head. "Did you see the horrible picture of me?" he whined. "Sir, every picture of you is a horrible picture of you." The audience lost it. Because really, does anyone in history complain more about bad photos than a man who looks like a sentient Cheeto with a wind problem? And then came the finishing blow: Trump's infamous golf obsession. Kimmel pointed out that while most former presidents spend their post-White House years writing books, starting charities, or at least pretending to do something meaningful, Trump is out here selling gold sneakers and bragging about his golf score. He spends his time arguing about whether a photo makes him look fat, Kimmel joked. Sir, you got fired from the one job you never wanted to do in the first place. And then came the kicker, the most brutal, laugh-out-loud moment of the entire roast. Carrey, never one to hold back, went for the jugular on Trump's ego. If I was going to make stuff up about him, he said, I'd start telling people he wears diapers. I'd explain that it's a long trail. He drinks a lot of Diet Cokes. He's getting up there in years, and it's perfectly normal for a man of Trump's age and carriage to wear absorbent undergarments to stop the leaks. At this point, the crowd was in hysterics. Because let's be honest, if Trump thought people mocking his tan lines and hair were bad, the idea of being the subject of diaper jokes? That's the one insult his ego would not recover from. We all know his playbook by now. First, he'll pretend he didn't watch it. Then, he'll spend an unhealthy amount of time ranting about it anyway. And finally, he'll start rage posting on Truth Social, calling late-night TV failing, mocking their ratings, and insisting he's totally not mad while simultaneously proving that he is in fact very, very mad. And that, right there, is the ultimate punchline. Because no matter how many lawsuits he threatens, no matter how many angry rants he posts at 3 a.m., he knows he lost this round. He knows that Carrey and Kimmel just turned him into a walking, talking joke. And the best part? There's absolutely nothing he can do about it. Up next, Trump's predictable reaction, aka the part where he absolutely loses it. Want me to dive in? If there's one thing more fragile than Donald Trump's ego, it's his ability to handle a joke. And after Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel annihilated him in front of millions, you knew the meltdown was coming. It's practically a law of nature. Insult Trump, wait a few hours, and watch as the all-caps ranting begins. At first, he'll pretend he didn't see it. That's always step one. He'll ignore the headlines, act like late-night TV is beneath him, and maybe even try to shift the conversation with some vague statement about how the real enemy is the radical left. But the cracks will start to show almost immediately, because the truth is, Trump is obsessed with what celebrities think of him. Always has been. So, as expected, within hours of the roast, the meltdown began. A furious, typo-riddled rant appeared on Truth Social, dripping with classic Trumpisms. And you know this wasn't just one post. No. This was a multi-post, rage spiral situation. Maybe even one of those nights where he furiously dictates a response to his staffers while pacing around Mar-a-Lago in a bathrobe, chomping on a quarter-pounder. And the ranting didn't stop at Kimmel and Carrey. No, Trump always has to go bigger. He probably threw in some insults about the entire late-night industry, claiming it's rigged against him. Maybe even calling it fake comedy not funny. Bring back Johnny Carson. As if Johnny Carson would have ever let him sit on the couch. Then came the inevitable victimhood routine. Because when Trump gets roasted, he doesn't just get mad. He acts like he's the most oppressed man on the planet. Suddenly, it's not about a couple of comedians making fun of him. No. Now it's about how unfairly he's being treated. The fake news and Hollywood elites are at it again. They hate America. They hate you. But don't worry, we're winning so much, they can't stand it. Right, because nothing says winning like getting humiliated on national television. And just when you thought he couldn't take the meltdown any further, he probably threatened a lawsuit. Because let's be real, Trump loves suing people almost as much as he loves fast food. And when he's been publicly humiliated, his first instinct is always to scream, defamation. Never mind that satire is very much protected under the First Amendment. In Trump's mind, making fun of him is a crime. But here's the best part. He'll never actually go through with it. Because deep down, even he knows that if he tries to sue comedians for making jokes, the courtroom sketch artist will end up roasting him harder than Kimmel did. And, of course, the meltdown wouldn't be complete without him turning on his own supporters in frustration. You know he went on one of his classic, "nobody is defending me" tirades, fuming at the fact that Fox News wasn't calling for Kimmel's immediate cancellation. Where's Fox? Why isn't Sean Hannity talking about this? Totally unfair! That's right. The same guy who spent years mocking everyone, from celebrities to war heroes, suddenly wants sympathy because late-night TV made fun of him. But here's the thing. Trump doesn't just hate being the punchline. He fears it. Because for a man who has spent his entire life trying to project strength, the worst thing that can happen is for people to stop taking him seriously. And that's exactly what Carrey and Kimmel just did. This wasn't some news anchor calling him out for corruption. It wasn't a politician criticizing his policies. No, this was something far worse. This was mockery. The kind of full-scale, merciless roasting that turns a man into a walking punchline. Because when people are laughing at you, they're no longer afraid of you. And for Trump, that's the real nightmare. So sure, he'll try to dismiss it. He'll call them washed up and irrelevant and claim that he doesn't care. But deep down, oh, he cares. He cares so much. And you know this isn't over, because in a few days, when he's still secretly fuming over the roast, he'll try to rewrite history. He'll insist that actually he won. That actually everyone loved him at the roast. That actually Kimmel and Carrey should be thanking him for the ratings boost. And honestly, that might just be the funniest joke of them all. If there was ever a first lady who looked like she wanted to be anywhere else, doing anything else, it was Melania Trump. And after Jim Carrey and Jimmy Kimmel were done with her, she was no longer just the reluctant first lady. She was the reluctant punchline. Melania has spent years perfecting the art of appearing unbothered. A carefully sculpted expression of mild disinterest, like a model at a fashion show who just realized she left the stove on. But Kimmel and Carrey cracked that image wide open, turning her into one of the biggest jokes of the night. First up was Kimmel, who went straight for the elephant in the room. Why does Melania always look like she's being held hostage? Melania reappeared at Trump's big dollar fundraiser this weekend looking absolutely miserable, Kimmel said. It was like she was being held hostage, only with a designer dress and better lighting. The audience erupted, because really, can anyone remember a public appearance where Melania looked like she wanted to be there? From swatting away Trump's hand in viral clips to her half-hearted speeches about kindness while standing next to the least kind man on the planet, Melania has never exactly been enthusiastic about her role. And Carrey? He took it even further, delivering what might have been the biggest gut punch of the night. Melania's book isn't just a book, it's also a fragrance. It smells like Slovenian prenup ink and a long sigh of regret. It was brutal. But let's be honest, it's not like people haven't been wondering for years whether Melania secretly regrets signing up for this circus. And then, of course, there was the infamous Be Best campaign. You know, the anti-cyberbullying initiative she launched while being married to the biggest cyberbully of all time. Kimmel didn't even have to do much here. Just pointing out the sheer irony was enough. But Carrey feasted on it. Melania's greatest skill might be her ability to disappear whenever things get messy, he joked. She's like a Wi-Fi signal in a storm. Strong when you don't need it, completely gone when you do. And honestly, he's not wrong. Because when things got tough, when Trump was caught up in scandal after scandal, where was Melania? Nowhere to be found. She practically vanished from the public eye, reappearing only when absolutely necessary, and even then, looking like she'd rather be at home watching Selling Sunset. But the most savage joke of the night, the one that left the audience howling, Carrey's spot-on impression of Melania, complete with a fake Eastern European accent, describing her favorite moment as First Lady. People always ask me, Melania, what was your favorite memory as First Lady? And I say, it was 2020, when Donald got the China virus and was airlifted to the hospital like sick elephant. I threw party on the lawn. We dance around big bonfire and shoot fireworks at Mike Pence. The crowd lost it. Because when things got tough, when Trump was caught up in scandal after scandal, where was Melania? nowhere to be found. She practically vanished from the public eye, reappearing only when absolutely necessary, and even then, looking like she'd rather be at home watching Selling Sunset. But the most savage joke of the night, the one that left the audience howling. Carrey's spot-on impression of Melania, complete with a fake Eastern European accent, describing her favorite moment as First Lady. People always ask me, Melania, what was your favorite memory as First Lady? And I say, it was 2020, when Donald got the China virus and was airlifted to the hospital like sick elephant. I threw party on the lawn. We dance around big bonfire and shoot fireworks at Mike Pence. The crowd lost it. And that's exactly why this roast hit so hard. It wasn't just about making fun of Melania. It was about exposing the absurdity of her situation. She didn't sign up for this. She didn't dream of a political career. She just wanted to marry a billionaire, live in a gold-plated penthouse, and maybe start a handbag line. Instead, she got dragged into one of the most chaotic presidencies in history, forced to play the role of a supportive wife while millions of people analyzed her every move. And that, right there, is why Melania Trump is such an easy comedic target. She's not just a reluctant first lady, she's a reluctant spectacle. This wasn't just a roast, it was a reality check. Trump built his brand on being the insult king, but when the jokes were aimed at him, he fell apart. Carrey and Kimmel didn't need to exaggerate, they just held up a mirror, and the absurdity spoke for itself. Trump hates being mocked because laughter strips him of his power. He can handle controversy, but being turned into a punchline, that's his worst nightmare. Kimmel's jab, sir, every picture of you is a horrible picture of you, wasn't just funny, it was symbolic of his downfall. Carrey's brutal line, Trump's presidency was an extinction-level event, not just for democracy, but for dignity, hit even harder.